In Xenoverse 2, there are beings of insane strength, gods with the power to dominate the universe, and criminals who manipulate time and space like toys. One thing they all have in common though is that you, yes, I'm talking about you, can destroy them. Your avatar within this game may be one of the strongest characters in all of Dragon Ball. From the amount of forms you have, to the hundreds of skills you can learn, there's no one with a power set quite as diverse as your avatars. So, what are we waiting for? Let's break this down. At the start, you are already strong enough to take on Raditz in his fight with Goku and Piccolo. While levels aren't necessarily reliable to gauge the power scaling, the fact you can beat Raditz at level 1 means you have to be about his power level as a baseline. This already puts you above anything in early Dragon Ball and places you at the top of the world. As you progress through the story, you defeat Saiyans like Nappa and Vegeta, keeping up with the Z Fighters' very best like Goku and Piccolo. By the Namek arc, you find yourself surpassing Frieza's best and even conquering the Emperor of the Universe. While he may not seem like much in the grand scheme, Namek Frieza was the standard of power to be considered the strongest. Even most denizens of the Demon Realm can't handle nerfed baby Super Saiyans. So you're already one of the most powerful beings in the multiverse. But you don't stop there. Dr. Gero's insanely powerful androids are surpassed before long, both from the past and future. And also, I haven't brought it up yet, but the whole point of you going back to the past to defeat these villains is because they've been enhanced by the magic of Towa in order to gain them energy, similar to Babidi's Majin spell. This means you're not only defeating these villains in their own time, but also defeating enhanced versions the Z Fighters of those times would lose to without help. Some of them are even able to access the supervillain form, which can make someone like Yamcha defeat Buu Arc to Resurrection F level fighters, depending on Gohan's strength here. This means when supervillain Broly comes rolling up in the Buu Arc, it's hard to say how strong this incarnation really is. By training with characters like Gotenks at this level, you can perform feats like flying across the world multiple times in mere moments. You're even able to tangle with Beerus and withstand a prolonged fight with him, rather than being one-shot like Gohan and Majin Buu. This same Beerus training you later believes you have the makings of a true rival at the rate you grow, with Whis directly comparing your growth to Beerus in his own training. Considering the story still has yet to decide how strong Beerus is, you might be a being of indefinite strength, eh? Regardless, you fight against an enhanced Golden Frieza backed up by a Dragon Ball Super tier metal cooler, and still manage to make it out the other side. Mind you, your character doesn't need to use a single transformation, not even Kaioken, to take any of these enemies down. Though for the last chapter, you do need to do some Time Rift missions, so that could imply the game expects you to use the forms acquired from those to win the final fights. Even so, you could just choose not to transform into them anyway. In the final mission, you take on Final Form Mira, who, after absorbing Toki Toki's egg, wields the power of an entire timeline.
Toki Toki holds power over time, right? The eggs he lays contain all the time for a universe. When one of those magnificent eggs hatches, it marks the dawn of a whole new timeline.
And if you're good enough, you can take him down without Goku using the Dragon Fist to weaken him. That means you're about as strong as an entire timeline for all intents and purposes. And I know that sounds ridiculous at first, but this is the kind of crazy power scaling littered throughout this game and its counterparts like Dragon Ball Heroes. Xeno Goku in that series literally endangers time and space by going Super Saiyan 4. And even though I said levels don't accurately correlate to power scaling, the level cap in the original version of the game was 80. So, although unlikely you'd wait that long, you could have beat Mira at level 80, being generous. But now thanks to DLC, you can go up to level 180 with the help of Elder Guru and Whis, meaning for now, at the absolute bare minimum, your character can be over twice as strong now as you were in the final chapter. Also earlier in the story, when Towa eliminates the Xenoverse 1 protagonist from the timeline and memories of the Time Patrol, Xenotrunks eventually brute force remembers them, despite the fact their existence is literally erased from all records. And if this Trunks, who shows he's not the most competent warrior in this story, can resist memory manipulation of this scale, there's no reason you can't. In the DLC, you manage to fight against powered-up versions of Dragon Ball Super characters like Hit, Fuse Zamasu, Jiren, and Super Broly. Then, the Ultra Super Villain forms become a thing, elevating God-level characters to gain even new heights of strength. You manage to defeat all of them, at least with the help of other characters. The most recent monster was Ultra Supervillain Frieza, who had the powers of the Supreme Kai of Time. Despite needing help from Corona to defeat him, you did manage to constantly stand up to and push back this false deity, despite his control over time being so strong he could revert you back to level 1. Goes to show that at the end of the day, your character's greatest strength is their resilience.
And maybe downing some healing capsules on the side.
And speaking of, you can use different support items like capsules that restore ki, stamina, and health. You can even store the essence of a senzu in a capsule, allowing you to revive yourself on the fly. Now I'll break down each of the race's general abilities and perhaps some of the origins for your characters. Sure, you could just say, my character is Damien the Dark Lord and he comes from the Voltron Nebula in age 30,012, learning Ultra Instinct at the age of 6. And I couldn't really tell you otherwise. But I'll go over some of the most likely scenarios, perhaps explain why your character is so insane. Because if you're like me, it's always fun to think how your character may tie into the lore. Let's start off with the easiest one to break down, the Earthlings. They don't have much going on in the way of forms or natural abilities, but that only makes the human avatars reaching these levels of power that much more impressive. Krillin and Tien may fight for the spot of the strongest, but your avatar can reach the likes of Super Saiyan Blue tier fighters. I guess you'd be more comparable to Oob in that respect. They are a balanced set of warriors, with the median base health between the races. They output less damage in their basic attacks and ki blasts, but are among the highest in damage numbers for strike attacks. Perhaps this is due to them being in the center of the greatest planet for martial arts in the galaxy. Your character may come from any point in Earth's history, but if they come from the age of Dragon Ball Online, then they'd have a variety of schools they could have learned from. Like the New Crane School, New Turtle School, the Pan Fighting Network, or Goten and Trunks' School for Sword Fighting. With the opportunity to learn from such powerful schools, it's no wonder your character could stand up to Raditz in Mission 1. Humans in the game have one unique form, if you could even call it that. Apparently, every Earthling is pure enough to ride the Flying Nimbus if they want to, all by using the technique Power Pole Pro. In this mode, they can utilize the Power Pole for long-range melee attacks. It costs no energy to activate, but it can be smacked away very easily. You know the drill with Saiyans. Your character should be naturally getting stronger after every fight, and even during the fight. You'll most definitely experience some near-fatal injuries, which will result in Zenkai boosts after healing. These aspects are reflected in the fact they have lower health than most of the races, allowing them to activate a passive ability where they do more damage at low health, and also gain an additional damage boost when they're revived. You have the strength to rise to any occasion, cause after all, a Saiyan have
no limits. Let's charge together at full power!
You could probably say your character comes from an age before the destruction of planet Vegeta, or you're yet another survivor out in the universe. Maybe even a Universe 6 Saiyan. But if you were to come from the time of Dragon Ball Online, you would have been raised in the troublemaker education program like some of the humans. You would have been living out in the wilderness trying to survive like young Gohan, managing to keep going thanks to the small yet potent Saiyan blood in your veins. There aren't really any Saiyans in Dragon Ball Online, but the Earthlings you happen to play as are pretty much descendants of Goku and Vegeta's lineages from hundreds of years in the future. Despite being so far removed from pure Saiyan blood, they are still able to become Super Saiyans. Of course, compared to the rest of the races, they have the most amount of forms at their disposal. The basic one you acquire is Super Saiyan, which takes you from 1 to 3. As you ascend to higher levels, the amount of ki you gain back from basic attacks decreases, referencing how hard it is to control their ki. There's also Super Vegeta 1 and 2, which increase your ki blast damage. Future Super Saiyan, borrowed from Trunks and Gohan, has higher stamina regeneration than the other forms. Lore-wise, this means even with everything you can already do in your base form, you can multiply it times 50, 100, and 400. If you believe the game implies you need this form for the final missions, then it means you only need Super Saiyan 3 to defeat Final Form Mira powered up by a whole timeline. Because after all that, you still have the God forms. Super Saiyan God costs as much ki as Super Saiyan 1, boosting your speed and a massive increase in basic attack damage. Super Saiyan Blue does higher super attack damage, but drains your ki at a slow rate. While obviously being a balancing mechanic, it does imply that you may not have fully mastered the form. But you can get Blue Evolution, which has the same attributes but even more drastic, for better and worse. We of course don't have official multipliers for the God forms, but they'd obviously blow away Super Saiyan 3 in every way. We're all familiar with the Namekian's insane abilities like regeneration, stretchy limbs, growing in size, their affinity for magic, and even creating children as a single parent. This makes them tremendously versatile in combat as long as they aren't horribly outmatched against their opponent. Also, if Piccolo's statements in the Buu arc are any indicator, they can fully regenerate as long as their head is intact or they haven't lost a lot of energy. This is showcased in-game with their health regenerating up to a certain percentage and having some of the highest health in the game. You could say your OC comes from any of their homeworlds like the Demon Realm, Planet Namek, or even small tribes like on Planet Cereal. Even though they are typically a culture who denounce violence, the tribe stuck in the Peace of Namek managed to produce warriors like Nail, who was around the level of Ginyu Force members. You could say your character's strength is attributed to being a Super Namekian, either via Namekian fusion or from birth like Lord Slug. Bringing online lore into this, your character may be from the survivors on Earth thanks to Mira's destruction of Namek. Hey, could give you some extra motivation to defeat him in the story. There on Earth, you could find yourself in the camps of the traditional Namekians or the new children of Narak who embrace their darkness like King Piccolo. Namekians can turn giant, which makes you stronger and applies a stamina auto drain. In this state, you cannot be staggered and are a hulking beast. In lore though, at least according to Superhero, it doesn't provide much of a strength boost, if at all. But surely at that massive size, you can find ways to hold back your opponents, making it a useful form. Never given an official name, this race consists of some of the strongest tyrants in the universe. To be fair though, it is stated that Frieza and his father, and Cooler by extension, are unnatural mutants. Therefore, it doesn't make sense to assume the whole race matches their strength by default. And we know Frieza didn't train a day in his life, meaning his Namek strength was completely based on innate power. Give him 4 months and he can already fight the gods. But considering you can also attain similar powers, maybe your character is also a mutant. Regardless, the Frieza race deals some of the highest basic attack damage and they are among the fastest. This is the only race where you can't exactly find a neat place to fit your character into the lore. Maybe you can say they're just part of the Frieza Force, having their planet controlled by their own tyrannical brethren. You could say they're from Universe 6 like Frost, but there's nothing really to go off of there. And there's also no reason to be tied down to just being evil. You could be a member that stands for something just. It's quite the open canvas for creativity. Many aspects of Frieza and Cooler forms are referenced in the head shapes and outfits, thereby you could say your character is in a specific form, or even make up a form. At the end of the day though, you are basically already in the 4th form, as Frieza only developed his first 3 forms to nerf and control his true power. By Super, he eventually mastered his 4th form, so you could see your character in the same light. The only unique transformation to this race is Turn Golden, which would logically be the strongest of all the original launch version forms. Golden Frieza took the Space Emperor from base Goku to Super Saiyan Blue, so they hit the level of the gods before anyone else. Though, maybe your Golden form is weaker because, as I said earlier, Frieza is a mutant with insane latent potential, so it's kinda hard to say. The Majin race comes in all shapes and sizes. Unlike Daima generalizing most Demon Realmers as Majin, this specifically entails artificially created ones. They have quite the flexible body, making for both wild attacks and a near unstoppable defense. But despite the original Buu being conventionally undefeatable, the Majin race is known defeat by even the hands of the Frieza Force in Dragon Ball Online, so they can't rely on this defense as a crutch. They are also well versed in magic, thanks to all Majin having some form of magical ability. When it comes to their origin in official material, there is really only one origin point we know of. Unless Marba or some other magician is creating them, they are all descendants of the original Buu, who cloned himself and created a family that would continue for generations in Dragon Ball Online. This is outright referenced in the family Buu starts within the Time Rift. The only unique form of the Majin race is Purification. As they are tied to Majin Buu, they also retain an aspect of the original Buu, one disassociated from the individual quirks and traits of its offspring. They shed everything in order to become a toddler of pure destruction. Then we have the forms used by all races, the first being Potential Unleashed, rewarded to you by the Elder Kai by completing the promotional exams. Theoretically, this would unlock all your latent power without needing any of your race's specific transformations. It can then be enhanced through Beast, which gives you Gohan's hair if you're a human or Saiyan, and red pupils to all the races. This put Gohan from Super Saiyan Blue tier to reaching Ultra Instinct in terms of power, and so you might experience a similar boost. Every race can use Ultra Instinct as well, treating it as a full form in the game. As you may expect, it allows you to dodge any basic melee and ki attacks as long as you have enough stamina. We could also assume as a form, it's above the likes of Blue Evolution and Golden, the white hair suggesting you even mastered it. There is no doubt, even if you don't believe your base can beat gods, that you have clearly entered their realm through this form. Oh, you thought the transformations were crazy? Oh no, that's only the appetizer. The real craziness of how broken our character gets is in the skills they can perform. A lot of them you learn from mentors, but most you get from parallel quests. How do you learn them in these parallel quests? Well, in the Broly mentor questline, he never teaches you a thing, and so you simply learn his moves by avoiding and observing them. This means any techniques not coming from mentors or training missions are most likely obtained through our character's quick ability to learn on the fly. Similar to characters like Goku and Majin Buu, we are a sponge for learning new tricks. You can learn many powerful skills like the Super Kamehameha, Final Flash, and even the Dragon Fist. In fact, pretty much 99% of what other characters know, you can know. So, I'm just gonna ramble on with the ones I find the most crazy. You can use the martial arts abilities of characters like Tien, Krillin, and Piccolo, performing attacks that vastly surpass the strength of their masters can normally dish out. Your massive strength can even handle attacks from characters like Jiren, able to blink away your foes and conjure walls of fire. Go ahead and utilize the might of Buu by spewing city-leveling breath or firing enough attacks to wipe away an entire population. You could even scream so hard you can rip through dimensions. In your arsenal are special equipment like Trunks' sword, beam guns from Jocko and the Gammas, even Frost's poison needle. You have very strong psychic abilities, able to freeze opponents in place or move objects with your freaking mind. You power yourself up with motivating poses, both from villains and heroes. You can also manipulate your opponents with a lullaby punch or dancing para, even psyching them out with a bluff Kamehameha. Nowhere is safe from you, as you can use instant transmission to teleport to anyone's key signature, or just use the Supreme Kai's far superior Kai and just travel wherever you want without limit, even to Zeno's palace. You know many magical abilities, like the Shenron's control over the elements, and utilize their negative energy for a devastating power ball. The Ghost Kamikaze attack can create an army of explosives that you can hurl at the enemy. You can break through dimensions with a wave of a finger, or even transmutate someone into another material or object like candy. The almighty Miracle Needle can dodge any attack, even better than Ultra Instinct. Stamina is no problem, because you can quick sleep like Buu and in 2 seconds you'll be all rested up. You can even use android abilities, allowing you to drain the opponent's health and ki. There's also Android 13's data input, which allows you to access data on your opponent and seamlessly avoid their attacks. You can use the skills of demons like Toa to capture or swap opponents, even healing yourself. Thanks to the skills of Few, you have the ability to turn invisible and lay traps for unsuspecting victims. And with Dabra moves at your disposal, the Stone Spit can petrify your foes. While the game has the opponent unfreeze after a bit, in lore, the Stone Spit can only be undone if the user is killed. Good luck with that. Utilize the skills of the gods, like Few Zamasu's Divinity Unleashed, which can increase your ki recovery at a massive rate, along with his other insane moves like Blades of Judgment, Lightning of Absolution, and Holy Wrath. You can use Kaioken all the way up to ×20, and use the super move skills to combine it with any form, even Ultra Instinct. You can create a Spirit Bomb of multiple sizes, even Trunks' Sword of Hope. Or make one of pure hate like Baby's Revenge Death Ball. The abilities of Beerus, Champa, Belmont, and Topo mean you can use the skills from Gods of Destruction, including multiple forms of Hakai. Even the angel skills of Whis and Vados are just added to your inventory of powers. You have multiple ways of manipulating time, like Goldo's Time Freeze, Hit's Time Skip, and the abilities of the Supreme Kai of Time. And if you watch the Ultra Supervillain Frieza video, you know what those moves entail. Nothing seems to be off limits to your character. Soon enough, you could start erasing things like Zenocan. Super Souls could also imply some funny things, like references to Saiyan Anger Boost, one of Tien's making you negate all Kamehameha damage just because he could take it in the 22nd World Tournament, or Zamasu's implying you're immortal and cannot die or be knocked out for long. And if somehow, some way, your character is just not strong enough to get the job done, just self-destruct and output more power than your insane durability can handle. Chomp on some Fruit of the Tree of Might and cheat your way to the top. Or just throw your hands in the air, give up, say whatever, and body change with your opponent. If it isn't obvious enough, your character has an answer to about any situation. Safe to say, your avatar is one of the most broken characters in Dragon Ball. I know it's just a game where they want to give you a lot of freedom to express your character, and the story doesn't really treat you like some unstoppable eldritch horror, but it's just fun to think about what this freedom of expression entails. Our character goes through all of time and space, facing the most powerful warriors in history, and even those outside of it. It kinda just makes sense that you could be the true rival of Beerus, the one to give the strongest Goku his ultimate challenge, and be the one to save the entire multiverse and beyond. But actually, your character's nowhere as cool as mine. See this guy? This is Gord, and he's a descendant of Goku from the future, and he can actually go Super Saiyan 4, but stack Beast onto it so he can become a Super Saiyan Beast, and have enough power to break time and space.